Hello everyone, or welcome to the channel. I'm Zion, or Phonemic Shorts, and this is mainly just a channel where I upload videos of me pronouncing different consonants, vowels, or other phone sounds. And that's for the most part what I do. I do possibly other things as well, as things like specials sometimes for subscriber milestones, or possibly other videos I might in the future, like rants or other things. I recently uploaded a clip from stream of me trying to pronounce something. Anywho, I'm going to go ahead and cover some conventions and other things that are done throughout the channel that might be important to note. First thing that I've seen mentioned a lot is my use of the term phoneme actually in my videos. To notate, the actual use of a phoneme is technically not the same as what I use. I use a convention here. Note, when I use the term phoneme, that means it is a major or prominent allophone that I can find that's phonemically distinct in languages, used to primarily represent sounds, not an actual phoneme, which is really a group of phones that's phonemically distinct from others in a language, which is something important to note while in these videos. So technically everything I do in these videos is phones, as this is more of a phonetic shorts videos than phonemic. And so I'll use the term phone when I can't actually find any prominent phoneme thing here, where it's the prominent allophone of a phoneme, right? And the term rough and other things like that, which also will appear on some videos. Rough is used for impossible sounds primarily, where if I'm trying to demonstrate what would happen if you try to pronounce something impossible or something like that, I would use that term, as it's a rough approximation of what it would sound like due to it being impossible. There's also sometimes things like phoneme with a question mark, which normally just means that I'm not quite certain in the status of the sound. Another thing is places of articulation. I try to be as precise as I can with the usage of terms. So you'll see things like what's normally called the post-alveolar sibilant fricative being called the palato-alveolar sibilant fricative, distinguishing it from post-alveolar. And that distinction is, of course, laminal versus apical. And other things, I'm always distinct between pharyngeal and epiglottal. I've actually thought about making a whole rant on that thing because it really annoys me a lot. But, so, to note, I do that. And sometimes there will also be other things, which I'll cover down here in the unofficial category. But, what else? What are other important things to note about my places of articulation? I don't think there's anything else too important. I try my best to be accurate, of course, but it can be a bit tricky. I use Wikipedia for a lot of things, general things I've done, or my own, like, kind of, I guess, what you call studies. So anyway, notation. For the most part, I use IPA notation. Now, sometimes if a sound doesn't have a notation, or it's kind of like iffy, unofficial notations, there are other things that will happen. For example, you'll see an asterisk on a lot of them, which is just a notation for any sound that doesn't have an actual notation in IPA. It is a symbol you can use for it from the extended IPA. I do use extended IPA quite extensively. Haha, pun intended, or whatever. So, what else? There are, sometimes I'll use certain notations that I made up, certain ones I found online, as well as side notations, which are also noted. For example, I think one of them is ZBPT, I think is one of the ones I've used in the past, which stands for Zion's Byte Phonetic Transcription, which is, of course, a system of using two characters to represent different sounds, which I've used a decent bit. So just to note that sometimes I will use other notations when the IPA isn't, and sometimes my IPA notation might just be kind of the best I can get. And sometimes I'll give multiple or just one. Anyway, next is quality. I am an English speaker from my native language, so of course I don't have too much experience with the actual sounds of it. Most of this is from things I found online, what I personally believe to be as best as I can. Sometimes I'll redo a sound if I believe that it was inaccurate or needs to be redone. Feel free to tell me and things like that. Another thing that will sometimes crop up is that certain languages have odd pronunciations of sounds that aren't really accurate to the actual character. For example, in Arabic, one that's shown up before is the, The voice pharyngeal fricative in Arabic is not a voice pharyngeal fricative and is actually a creaky voiced epiglottal proximant. And things like that show up. For example, also the alveolar approximant is not the R in English, so instead of, which of course the alveolar approximant is like ra, while the English one is a ra, right? So there's a lot of things like that which will show up that are important to note, but I do try my best to be accurate, but it's good to know that I am not the, I don't have really much power or say in things, so I am not a definitive answer to how something should be said. I'm just trying my best to share how I think sounds pronounced, to share and help others with it. Now, of course, unofficial, the final thing on this list. To note, I will sometimes use unofficial terms or notations and things like that in my videos, which can happen for a variety of reasons. For example, the term guttural was made up as an unofficial term for generolateral for things like, for the phoneme that's kind of infamous, Joe on the channel, which was one where the lip causes peripheral airflow instead of the tongue, which is the definition of lateral. And of course, there are other cases and things like that where I've used unofficial descriptions. A lot of them are places of articulation that are unofficial, and sometimes actual articulations as well. So just good to note that sometimes I will use unofficial things. A lot of times it's marked with an asterisk or there's a description in the comment section. It's always good to check the comments or description of the video for extra notes I might put on the sound that were not in the actual video itself. Now, I do believe that's all I wanted to cover here. I hope this clears up anything in my videos and will help you enjoy my channel more. I do feel sorry for the people that might never see this and just click on a video and it cause some form of misinformation to spread. I do not wish to create misinformation, but it's kind of just the nature of how this might work. Anywho, that is all. I hope you enjoyed, and well, there you go.